Hey movie buffs, I'm Jack Benner and welcome to my review of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Black Panther Wakanda Forever is now the 30th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the sequel to 2018's Black Panther. Ryan Coogler, who directed the first Black Panther, is behind the camera once again, and this sequel stars Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrero, Winston Duke, and Angela Bassett. Mourning the loss of King T'Challa, Wakanda is fighting to protect their vibranium and their kingdom from a new threat, a mutant named Namor who is emerging from the surface world. For this sequel happening, I was both excited but worried at the same time, because it's been 2 years since the heartbreaking and tragic loss of the great Chadwick Boseman, who was a tremendous talent and he was the perfect choice to play King T'Challa / Black Panther. And I remember the day Chadwick Boseman tragically passed away and I was just so heartbroken because he was just such a terrific actor. And one Chadwick Boseman film I highly recommend that was released on Netflix the same year as his death was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which was his posthumous Oscar-nominated role. And his acting in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was just absolutely phenomenal and powerful. And Ryan Coogler actually had a complete script before Chadwick passed away, but then after Chadwick's passing, Ryan Coogler did a rewrite of that script. I wasn't sure how this sequel would justify its existence or work without Chadwick, but when the first trailer was released, it looked great, and that's one of my favorite MCU trailers. Just the emotion felt throughout the trailer and the action looked exciting. The more I watched the trailers, my excitement was starting to increase and it's one of my most anticipated movies for the rest of the year. Ryan Coogler is a great and talented director who has yet to make a film I dislike. Starting with 2013's Fruitvale Station, which was a very powerful and hard-hitting true story movie with Michael B. Jordan and an excellent breakout role from him. Well, technically Chronicle was, but this movie really showed his talent as an actor. If you loved Creed and Black Panther, definitely check out Fruitvale Station if you've never seen it, although it is a hard watch. And then in 2015, he made Creed, which I thought was fantastic. And that is still my second favorite Rocky movie next to the original. Michael B. Jordan and Sylvester Stallone were absolutely incredible in that movie. And even though the sequels weren't directed by Ryan Coogler, I loved Creed 2 and I can't wait for Creed 3 this March. That looks great. And the first Black Panther is one of my top 10 favorite MCU movies. I loved what that movie did for blockbuster filmmaking and culture. Thought it had interesting characters. I love the world building of Wakanda and the first superhero movie to be nominated for Best Picture, which is great. Given Ryan Coogler's track record as a director, I had faith that him and the cast and crew were planning to do something special with this movie despite the circumstances. And there was a lot for this sequel to live up to. Could this sequel be as good as the first? And could this sequel work without Chadwick Boseman while honoring his legacy? And since this is the last film in Phase 4 of the MCU, which has been divisive for some people enjoying and loving MCU while others just not really on board. So could this be a good film for Phase 4 to end strong? I've actually seen this movie twice now and had time to process my thoughts. My review is here. What did I think of Black Panther Wakanda Forever? I am very happy to report that Black Panther Wakanda Forever is a very satisfying and emotional sequel, while also doing an excellent job at paying tribute to Chadwick Boseman and ending Phase 4 on a high note. Let's start with the pros. The first thing that I would like to mention about Black Panther Wakanda Forever is something a lot of people have been curious about. How does this movie pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman? And despite everything, I felt like Ryan Coogler and the cast and crew paid tribute to him as respectfully and as beautifully done as they could. Just from the opening scene, just how serious, tragic, and prestigious it was. That currently is one of the most emotional scenes I have seen in the MCU and one of my favorite opening scenes. And same with the logo followed by after, not going to spoil what it is. That was also beautifully done. The performances from the cast are all great. I really liked Shuri in the first Black Panther. I love the sibling dynamic between T'Challa and Shuri. She was both funny and I love seeing her being the tech wizard of Wakanda. And now that Shuri is the main character this time in this movie, I think this is Letitia Wright's best performance as Shuri so far. She does an absolutely amazing job with the character this time, giving a more emotional performance, showing the grief and despair that she's going through in this sequel. Watching this movie, I can really tell she gave it her all and put a lot of care and passion put into the role this time. Lupita Nyong'o is great as always. I still love Winston Duke as M'Baku. Denai Guerrero is still awesome as Okoye, still showing her fierce and loyalty to Wakanda. And one standout in the supporting cast, Angela Bassett. Her acting was absolutely amazing in this movie, and one particular scene from her, all I can say is, it is one of the best acted scenes I've ever seen in the MCU. Now as for the villain of this film, Namor, played by Tenoch Huerta, Now, following up Killmonger, who was my second favorite MCU villain behind Thanos, I'm sure that was not an easy task, and this villain did look intriguing from the trailer. Now, I would say that Killmonger is a stronger and more compelling villain in my opinion, but I thought Tenoch Huerta was excellent as Namor. I thought he did an amazing job at making this villain both understandable to where he's coming from while giving this character an intimidating presence whenever he's on screen. For what were surprise improvements I found to be over its predecessor, I liked Ryan Coogler's approach and directing to the fight choreography and the action scenes much more than the first movie. It did have more of a visceral edge to it. Definitely did a great job at crafting some very entertaining action scenes in this movie. Especially one car chase between the first and second act that I really liked that was a standout for me. And I'm curious to see how much of that action scene was done practically or what CGI was used in that scene. Another thing to give Coogler's directing is the expansion of the world building. I really liked his world building in the first movie with Wakanda, but in this film introducing the kingdom of the Talokan was very interesting to see. Not only the introduction to Namor and his backstory, but seeing that entire kingdom, I could see potential for a Disney Plus series in the future. And Ludwig Göransson's score is once again excellent and proving he's one of the best composers we have right now. And there is one particular score before the climax of the movie that honestly gave me goosebumps. And Ludwig Göransson is doing consistently great work with the Black Panther films, Creed, Tenet, The Mandalorian. One aspect I admired about Wakanda Forever is how mature this movie felt compared to the rest of the MCU films, with not as much humor or action as you would expect. And it's taken its time to show what these characters are going through, exploring themes such as grief and vengeance, and showing the political sides between Wakanda and the Talokan, which were very interesting to see. Sadly, I do have some flaws with this movie. I will get to those right now. My main flaw I have with Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the runtime. This movie is 2 hours and 41 minutes long. And from what I remember, I think this is the second longest MCU film. Endgame is still number 1 at 3 hours. And I think this movie is like 4 minutes longer than Eternals from what I remember. My problem is the runtime in this movie felt a bit uneven. At times it was exciting and engaging. I was into it. But then other times, which leads me to my next issue, there was this subplot involving a character from the first movie, Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman, who does a good job in this movie. But he does have a subplot with another character you've seen in the Disney Plus MCU TV shows, not going to spoil who it is. That subplot just felt uninteresting and you kind of feel the story grinding to a halt and the pacing dragging a bit. And that subplot just feels like filler and it's just there for MCU setup. And I felt like some of those scenes between those two characters just could have been cut for a more trimmed runtime and a more focused story. And then, while for the most part the visual effects are very good, at times during the final battle there are a few spotty looking CGI here and there, some green screen and some CGI that didn't look up to par in my opinion. In conclusion, despite its pacing issues and I don't think it's as good as the first film, Black Panther Wakanda Forever is a very solid continuation from the first film and ending to Phase 4. It's more of a mature story in this film, the cast are on top of their game, well done action scenes, good visuals, and most of all, being an emotional and moving tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Despite everything the cast and crew had to face while making this movie, and I can't even imagine the difficulties they had to face to make this movie without Chadwick, but for what they were able to pull off by making a very good movie, I commend them for that. Definitely go see it if you loved the first movie, you've been enjoying Phase 4 of the MCU, or you're curious to see how this movie pays tribute to Chadwick, definitely go see it. Or if you're worried about this film, you haven't been a fan of Phase 4 of the MCU, you weren't a fan of the first movie and you found it overrated, or if you did like the first movie and if you're not sure how the sequel is going to work without Chadwick, I do think you should give this movie a chance to see if you like it or not. For a movie I was curious about, worried it wouldn't justify its existence, and now having seen it and giving it the benefit of the doubt, I actually felt like this movie was necessary. And now to grade it, I'm going to give Black Panther Wakanda Forever 4 stars out of 5, a B+. I'm glad this movie ended strong for Phase 4 of the MCU, and where it would rank in my MCU Phase 4 ranking, I would put it at number 3. Number 2 for me would be Shang-Chi, and number 1, Spider-Man No Way Home. And I'm actually planning on doing a ranking video for Phase 4 MCU films, and I'm going to do that video in January, a month before Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania comes out, which I'm looking forward to. And at some point, I am planning on ranking the MCU TV shows, A few shows I haven't seen. I still haven't seen What If, just a bit of Miss Marvel, and I still haven't seen She-Hulk yet. And from what I've heard on She-Hulk, I'm hearing mixed things. Some people enjoying it, some people just did not like that show at all. So I'm curious to check out that show at some point to see if I like it or not. Now is the end of Phase 4, even though it has been hit and miss. I am curious to see where things are going to go, building up to the multiverse saga. And we got the start of Phase 5 next year with some films. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I mentioned that. I'm looking forward to that. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I'm very excited for it. That's my most anticipated MCU movie next year. And the Marvels, not really 100% excited for that at the moment. I wasn't a huge fan of Captain Marvel, but I do feel like there is room for improvement with a new director, so we'll see how that movie goes next year. And where would it rank in my MCU ranking with 30 films now? Now, thinking about it, I would probably put it at number 16, right between Thor Ragnarok at number 15, and number 17 for me would be Captain America: The First Avenger, so that's where Wakanda Forever will rank in my MCU ranking. And now let's talk about Oscar predictions. Since the first movie was nominated for Best Picture, could this sequel be an Oscar contender? Well, let's see. What I'm predicting this movie will get in for, I definitely think costume design and production design, which I feel bad I didn't mention in my pros, but all that were equally impressive and on point. Visual effects I could see getting in, although after seeing the movie, I feel like it's a little snubbable. And there's a great song by Rihanna, Lift Me Up, at the end credits of this movie. That was a great song. I could see it getting nominated. For what I'm not sure about, I'm not sure if Ludwig Göransson will get in for another Best Original Score nomination. Because at the moment, I feel like Best Original Score is going to be very competitive, so I don't know if he'll get in. And Angela Bassett for Best Supporting Actress. I've seen some people saying about her acting in this movie is that she should be nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And I wouldn't mind that idea, but I'm not sure if she'll get in for a nomination despite a great performance and one particular scene from her. And will this movie get in for Best Picture like the first movie? Honestly, I don't think so. It didn't receive as rave reviews as the first movie did. It still got good reviews. I don't think it'll be enough for it to get a Best Picture nomination. It's still going to be very competitive. As for what big blockbuster sequel, I think it's definitely going to get a Best Picture nomination. Top Gun Maverick, I'll be super happy that this gets nominated for Best Picture. And a month we got Avatar: The Way of Water on its way, so could that get in for Best Picture? And the first Avatar was also a Best Picture nominee. I want to wait until that movie is screened to find out what people say, so I'm going to wait on that at the moment, but I am excited for Avatar 2 this December. So I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on Black Panther: Wakanda Forever? If you've seen it, do you agree, disagree with my review? Or if you haven't seen it, are you looking forward to the film or not? Let me know below. Did you enjoy hearing my thoughts on this movie? If yes, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here. Don't forget that notification bell for my next upload. It really means a lot. And until the next video, I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.